Jesus told them, "You're all going to feel that your world is falling apart and that it's my fault. There's a scripture that says, 'I will strike the shepherd, the sheep will go helter-skelter. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you, leading the way to Galilee.'" Peter blurted out, "Even if everyone else is ashamed of you when things fall to pieces, I won't be." Jesus said, "Don't be so sure. Today, this very night, in fact, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. He blustered in protest. "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." All the others said the same thing. They came to an area called Gethsemane. Jesus told his disciples, "Sit here while I pray."
What is happening? The evening started out like any other. We'd found a room in Jerusalem and gotten everything ready to have a great meal together. Jesus has seemed different tonight. He was wrestling with something inside, like there was a decision looming that was heavy on his heart. But he was still Jesus. I'd never met someone like him. He could weave stories and life together in a way that made your soul go, yes! Meals with Jesus are always good fun. Judas had slipped away at some stage. He'd had to go buy some more food. But as the meal wound down, Judas was still nowhere to be seen. Then Jesus stood up and asked us to follow him for a walk. We got up, some more reluctant than others. I pushed ahead so I could walk next to Jesus, and noticed the look in his eyes was more serious than before. We strolled out of the city walls, full of shadows and noise of crickets as the night began to fall. Jesus turned to us all, and suddenly the mood became somber. "I need prayer. Stay here." What was going on? This sounded serious. "Peter, can you come and keep me company as I pray?" I nodded, stunned. We wandered off and Jesus fell to the ground, pouring out prayer with tears. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I tried to pray, but my mind wandered. The darkness seemed heavy. My eyelids grew heavy. I awoke to Jesus gently shaking me and saying something about the time has come. What? Bleary-eyed, I got to my feet, and out of the shadows stepped Judas. He looked different. Normally cocky and slick with his words, Judas was nervous and stammering, hiding his hands, and then suddenly, awkwardly, rushed up to Jesus and gave him an artificial hug. Suddenly, what looked like an army appeared. A motley crew of thugs armed with swords and clubs rushed around Judas and grabbed Jesus. What was happening? I felt the old familiar anger rise up. Adrenaline powered through my veins. We weren't going down without a fight. Jesus was going to fix the world. I wouldn't let this group stop him. Grabbing my sword, I leaned forward and swung to kill the nearest of this mob. At the last second, he turned his head, and my sword glanced off his skull, slicing his ear clean off and leaving a bloody mess on the side of his face. It was on. "Stop!" yelled a familiar voice. It was Jesus. The garden went silent, apart from the screams of pain of my victim, whose hands were trying to stop the flow of blood gushing from his head. "Put your sword back, Peter," he commanded. I did. The crowd seemed stunned. Amidst the confusion, Jesus walked to the man and crouched down beside him. Gently, Jesus put his hand to his fresh wound and prayed. The man fell silent. Then he stood up. He felt the side of his head with his hands, mouth wide in disbelief. His ear was back, like it had never disappeared. Jesus had healed this man, the man who had come to arrest him. Everyone paused, unsure what to do next. To one voice at the back of the mob screamed, "Get them!" The crowd surged forward. Two men made eye contact, then rushed towards me with murder in their eyes. My confusion gave way to fear. I turned and sprinted into the shadows, jumping over fences and through backyards. I dove into a back alley and hid under a pile of rubbish. My pursuers ran past, swearing and threatening into the night. I hid, heart beating, breath gasping. Eventually, they abandoned their search and returned to join the main group. I kept hiding. What was happening? What had happened to Jesus? Why was he healing those who had attacked him? How could have I abandoned Jesus? What was going to happen to him? Was this the end of the story? Was he dead already? What is happening?
While all this was going on, Peter was down in the courtyard. One of the chief priest's servant girls came in and, seeing Peter warming himself there, looked hard at him and said, "You were with the Nazarene Jesus." He denied it. I don't know what you're talking about." He went out on the porch. A rooster crowed. The girl spotted him and began telling the people standing around, "He's one of them." He denied it again. After a little while, the bystanders brought it up again. "You've got to be one of them. You've got Galilean written all over you." Now Peter got really nervous and swore, "I never laid eyes on this man you're talking about." Just then, the rooster crowed a second time. Peter remembered how Jesus had said, "Before a rooster crows twice, you'll deny me 3 times." He collapsed in tears.